Hello, and welcome to Mornings with Joel, commercial real estate podcast, where we focus on rising stars and established players in commercial real estate and talk to them about how they are building legacies in today's marketplace.
The history and philosophy and my perspective on the economy today and what's happening. That might be helpful. But the main thing I would tell people in this business is, and a friend of mine, a guy named Bill Howell, impressed upon me. One day he was actually been sharing office space with me on Park Avenue. He used to run Mitsui's entire real estate program. And he's got the patience of a gnat. He's just a very direct guy. And so he was in my office for like 3 to 6 months. He was transitioning and stuff. He says, "Rich, I need to talk to you." He goes, "You are like one of the most talented people I've ever met. You're incredible. But the problem is, you try to do too many different things. And you're really going to have to focus. You have to decide who you are, what do you want to be, and do that. You can't do all these other things. It's just not possible." And he talked to me like he was my dad, and it really helped me. So that's extremely critical in real estate. So depending on what you're doing, whether if you're doing leasing, you're doing multifamily, you're doing industrial, you're doing consulting, you're doing brokerage, you have to develop a very high level of expertise and knowledge and market information, so people will partner with you and engage with you, so you can really bring value, which is a lot easier to do today because of technology. You can figure out a market very, very quickly. I'm working with a very large international foundation now. We're in the middle stages of negotiating how we might engage, but they have all these different cities they want to invest in around the U.S. and some places around the world. And she keeps saying, "Hey, what about Cairo, Egypt?" I said, that's not a problem. What about Brazil? We can do that too, right? Or West Africa, not an issue. Because, I'm a couple phone calls away from getting to somebody that's in that market or can help me understand that market. Then the process you use for investment, that doesn't change. Every market's a little bit different, but with the access to information today, it's really powerful in terms of what you can do. And then the other thing I would strongly advise is you have to look at the margins for the work you're doing, that it's actually profitable. At any time you can get someone to pay you a retainer and do consulting along the way, that's really critical. So you have cash flow while you're waiting for some of these other bigger opportunities to manifest.
Yeah. No, very good point. Because I know that was one of the questions that's come up before. Is how do you eat while you're waiting on all these things to happen? I mean,
yes.
$5 million worth of deals doesn't happen in a couple of weeks, right?
Yeah, no, they take a long time, and so you got to be very honest with yourself about how long you can survive and what you can do. I do think we're in an extraordinary time now with the new awareness of people of color. And a lot of companies are looking for partnerships and talent because they can't continue the way they used to work. And you're hearing, I'm getting stuff every day, and we're putting together a really big vision to address some of the wealth gap that would include affordable and workforce housing by meshing together opportunity zones, 4% tax credit, a government guarantee, and a rent to own multifamily for the tenants, which really addresses a lot of the big issues that people of color suffer from. And I'm very careful. I try not to use the word minority or black anymore because all that language has to change. But I think you're seeing such a rapid reset in our country now that those of us with access and talent, it's a fantastic time to position yourself. Daryl Carter and Victor McFarland were telling me a lot of their peers from these larger firms are calling like, wow, we really didn't get it. Now we understand. We want to put money in. We want to commit capacity. How can we help? So we're putting something together to give them an opportunity to help in a really big way. And I think that will happen. And you hear Bob Johnson talking about going back to the 40 acres and the mule, but he's not that far off. This is the debt that was promised to people 200 years ago, and it's never been paid. It needs to be paid. That's why you have the average family in this country net worth $170,000, and people of color at $17,000, and that's because where everyone started. Yeah. So these things, so there's a lot happening, and I think a lot of it does have to do with real estate. That I think position yourselves out there in the media and talking to some of these majority firms, you might be surprised some opportunities that the door will be wide open.
Yeah, that's actually a very good point. I know Oprah's show the other day was talking about, okay, what's your ask? And now is right. Probably the time better than ever to ask for what you want.
Yes.
This is what we want. And push the envelope, push the issue, and try to get it. So I know I've been doing that on my own front, and I'll tell you about that off camera so as to not hog the time from everyone else here. But you're absolutely right. I think you're spot on. Now is the opportunity to do it, get your stuff together, and get out there and try to make it happen while the awareness is there before it goes away. I give the example of Haiti. There was a ton of commitments and promises, and
right.
then once the news story changed, right, then all of a sudden it just went away. And you look at Haiti today, nothing's really different. So we want to make sure that doesn't happen again here in the country.
I've seen this movie many times in my career. Mm-hmm. I think this is different. I think it's real. There's so much happening, and you're hearing executives talking about their company is going to operate and adopt anti-racism practices, right? That's pretty powerful words. Anna McCoy and I actually set up a nonprofit entity for the Anti-Racism Society of America. And that entity will have ethos to it. And companies will be graded and awarded if they meet these ethos. So for companies have to examine themselves that they did it. They did operate as a racist entity. And that's not hard to figure out. Let's just start at who's on your board, who's your executive staff, what's the employee base, what vendors do you use, where are your facilities located, what nonprofits groups are you affiliated with, where your companies are associated, and they're gonna say, wow, I guess we were racist. And we can't afford to do that anymore. And I'll close with this. So my really great example. My sister Adrienne Gaines is an executive with a radio network called AURN out of New York, and they have affiliates all across the country, and they do podcasts. It's a organization focused on people of color, and they have Fortune 100 companies that do their advertisement on there. Companies like General Mills and Uber, a lot of Sprint, a lot of big companies. And 2 weeks ago, 4 big accounts canceled the advertising. So we don't want to run this advertising. We're out. So that was shocking, given everything that's happened. So they called them back. Said, "Well, why are you doing this?" They said, "Look, we still want to support the marketplace, but we are unhappy with our previous commercials. We don't want to present to this audience in this way. And we're trying to figure out how we want to present ourselves." So they took it upon themselves to redo the advertising, folks at AURN. And because they asked them, well, what message do you want to send? Because the old message ain't going to work. And they redid them, and they were thrilled with it, came back, recommitted, and then added another 50% of advertising to the budget.
Wow!
So this is how serious this is right now. Ben and Jerry's, look on their website. They have a bold statement out there that it's time to end institutional racism in this country. So this is here to stay, and I just encourage all of you to take advantage of it. It's here, and be a resource and a solution for people in the areas that you have expertise. And people are going to have a hard time saying no. I mean, if you look at the Me Too movement, how quickly that happened,
Mm-hmm.
and you saw heads roll that you thought would never roll,
Yeah.
right? I mean, even Steve Wynn, chairman of the largest gaming company in the world, had to step down because of some things that he did that were deemed inappropriate. So this is moving that quickly.
Yeah.
And a lot of people are going to be pushed out of position, and it's not going to be tolerated any longer. And I really think some of the economic things that need to be put in place, it has to be a 20-year plan. That's the terms that we're using. 20-year commitment to go in and address the institutional inequities in our communities. And everyone knows what they are. There's no mystery what they are. But in 20 years, our children and our grandchildren will have a very different experience, finally. And it's possible. And it's going to happen if corporate America is behind it, not the government. The government's going to be helpful, but if corporations are behind it and they see it affects their bottom line and their employee base, that moves a lot quicker than anything the government might want to do. Mm-hmm. So I'll leave you all with that. Thank you, Joel.
Yeah, thank you. And we'll catch up on other things. But hey, I certainly appreciate you coming today. And guys, any final words for Richmond before we let him go? All right, I see hand clap.
No, thank you for your time.
Hi, thank you so much for your time. I have one quick question. Near the beginning, you said to be aware of legislative change and environmental change. Yes. And I often try to keep up with legislative change because that definitely impacts the direction that money is flowing. But what are some of the environmental changes where you made some different investments or you knew this was an opportunity?
Oh, okay. So when I speak to environmental, that includes social change. I mean, green buildings, all these things are important. It's really changes in our society, right?
Okay. Mm-hmm.
So that could include, I remember we bought some I live in Miami. We bought some shopping centers here in Miami and Dade County. And early in the whole period, within like it was primarily the retailers were servicing a Black population. But within 3 years, it changed to Hispanic or Latino. So we had to go actually, and the sales were going down. It's a different customer base. So we went and met with the retailers like, dude, don't you understand what's happening here? Right? So they had to change it. So those types of things are critical. Then you look at, mass transit. Those are environmental changes that come into play. And you look at communities being gentrified. Well, where are you in that process? Are you coming in at the beginning of it or at the end of it? It's going to have a huge effect on your investment strategy. So you have to be really conscious about what you're getting into, and I'll use a term for development or investment, which is asset-based development or asset-based investment. What's that mean? Why is that community going to be able to sustain itself long term? Is there a hospital there? Is there mass transit? Is there a football stadium or a baseball stadium? Is some big companies going to move there? Something that's going to have that property perform over a long period of time. So you can see a great property. Oh, that looks great. I think it's going to go well, but it's sitting there by itself. It's going to fail. It's a bit like an orphan. Orphan needs a parent. So those asset-based development is absolutely critical in asset-based investment because you have to have a way to harvest that investment once you put your money into it. So I'm going to be coming to Seattle sometime in July. So, Ron, I'd like to get your information. Maybe we can meet when I'm up there.
That'll be great. I'll make sure you guys get together. That'll be
okay.
Fantastic. Yeah.
Are you?
Ron, take advantage of it, man.
All right, you guys have a great week.
Okay, Richmond, thank you very much. Appreciate it. All right. So, everybody, hope you found that beneficial and informative.
Yes, definitely.
That was awesome.
Good
That's
stuff.
awesome.
Yeah, like I said, it's an amazing story. You know, to be a black guy going from driving a taxi driver to $5 billion in real estate deals is, you know, it sounds like Fantasy Island, you know, but yet and still, you know, he's doing it. He's active in the space and he's done it. I didn't expect him to give all that detail. I expected him to just kind of say, you know, some cliff notes and kind of get to the end. But he kind of walked you through how he did it. And I know leasing was part of one of the things that needed to be talked about on the call, or wanted to be talked about. So I wanted to bring somebody on the call that had experience in leasing, so he could kind of talk about that and show you how he was able to morph that into more, you know, where it went from leasing into fund management and making investments like that, and then doing some of his own stuff. So glad you got value out of it. You know, that was the whole objective. So appreciate that.
Mr. McCoy made mention of I think it was a PowerPoint or a presentation around the 7 bridges. Is it 7 bridges of financing or raising equity?
You know, to be honest with you, I don't know. I got to go back and take a look and see exactly what he was referring to. I've known Richmond 20 years, maybe close to it. So, you know, over the years, I've got so much stuff from him, and we've gone back and forth on so many things that I just got to try to find exactly what he's talking about. If I can't find it, I'll get it from him, and I'll make sure I get it to the group. Okay?
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. All right. Anything else from anybody else today before we head on? So, all right. Well, I hope you found that. Excuse me. Hope you found that of value again. You know, we're coming up. Well, we got about 14 minutes to go before we normally shut down. But I'll continue to try to do this as the weeks go on, so that, you know, we can bring people of value to the table that are doing some of the things that you might want to do. If you remember, I did ask if there is something that specifically you want to hear about. Just send me an email, and I'll try to get someone that I know in my Rolodex to come in and speak and see if we can make that part of the plan. But look at some of these people that he talked about and some of the things they've done. You know, John Utenthal, Dick Parsons, most of us know, he was the chairman of Citibank for a while. You know, Victor McFarlane is, you know, kicking butt out there in San Francisco. Daryl Carter, down in Orange County, California. He's doing a whole lot in multifamily. He has a tremendous portfolio. These are people that we know, they're minorities, and that I can put my hands on it to come to the group as well. So just let me know what you want. We'll try to make this of value. So, all right. So anything else that we need to cover, or are we good? Anything anyone else want to add? All right. Well, Bruce, thanks also for coming today. First time on our call. Thank you very much for being here.
My pleasure, always.
Absolutely. Well, let's definitely keep in touch. And Ron, I'll get you Richmond's information so you guys can get together when he heads out there to Seattle. Like I said, that's a good meeting to have. Don't miss it. So, you know, it'll be worth your while. Yeah. All right. Well, I appreciate everybody. Thanks for coming today, and we'll talk soon. Thanks for everything.
You've been listening to Mornings with Joel, commercial real estate podcast, where we focus on rising stars and established players in commercial real estate and talk to them about how they are building legacies in today's marketplace. Please check back weekly to hear our upcoming guests.